1907. A crowd packs a Berlin courtyard, certain a horse can understand arithmetic. Ask clever Hans for 7 plus 5, and he taps his hoof 12 times. He tells the time. He spells out names. 89% of the time he is right, and 13 scientists sign their names to swear there is no trick. Here is why a horse from over a century ago is the most important thing you will hear about artificial intelligence. The machine you talk to on your phone might be the most convincing clever Hans ever built. And there is one 10-second test that quietly settles almost every one of these arguments, a test almost nobody bothers to run. I'll hand it to you before the end, and it will change how you watch every AI demo after this. Bank that one.
I'm Liam, and the creepy part is where I have to start. Nobody in that courtyard was lying. The horse really did tap out the right answer over and over in front of experts who wanted to catch a fraud.
The horse wasn't reading numbers. He was reading people.
Elena here. And how it broke is the whole story. A psychologist named Oscar Pfungst ran the test that mattered. When the person asking knew the answer, and Hans could see them, he hit 89%. When the questioner did not know the answer, Hans crashed 6%.
So let me put that side by side because the gap is the reveal. 89 when a human in the room knew. 6 when nobody did.
The answer was leaking out of the humans. As Hans's taps neared the right number, the questioner's posture and face tightened, then relaxed on the correct tap. Hans learned to stop on the release. Pfungst gave the same cues himself, and couldn't stop giving them even when he tried.
So 13 trained scientists watched a horse read their own faces and concluded the horse could count. And here's the picture that started it all.
Look at that crowd. Every person there is doing the one thing our brains are built to do, which is see a mind where there is only a very good pattern. And now we hold a machine far better at the pattern than any horse. That is the trap this whole episode is about.
This one's been sitting at the top of the comments all week, and it frames everything. Someone asked straight out, is AI actually intelligent or is it just a very fancy autumn couplet?
And we are not going to answer it in the first minute because the fast answer is where everybody goes wrong. Here's the plan instead. Each stop, we rule out one wrong way to decide. By the end, you'll have a test you can run yourself. But the next 10 minutes is where most people pick the wrong side and stay there.
Okay, I have to say the uncomfortable thing out loud. Everything we just did to that horse, the skeptics do to the machine. And honestly, their case is strong. So start with what the thing physically is, under the hood.
We built this up back in episode 1. It is a next token predictor. It reads your words and computes, out of everything it has ever seen, the single most probable next chunk of text. Then it appends that chunk and runs the loop again. Word by word, that's the entire engine. Strip everything else away, and that one loop is the 20% doing all the work.
Prediction, not comprehension. Nothing in that loop ever asks what the words mean.
So in 2021, 4 researchers gave that idea its name and it stuck. Emily Bender and her co-authors called a language model a stochastic-parrot. It stitches language forms together by probability, they wrote, with no reference to meaning underneath. A parrot that has read the whole internet, but a parrot. Their sharpest point from the same team wasn't about the machine at all. It was about us. Humans, they warned, impute meaning where there is none. That is the exact reflex the whole courtyard had in 1907. We hear fluency and we fill in a mind.
The evidence that lands hardest for me is a number, so keep it. Apple researchers took grade school math problems the top models had already aced. Then they changed one thing. A name. A number. Or they added a single sentence that looked relevant and wasn't. Accuracy fell by as much as 65%.
Hold on. It aced it, then you change one number and it
falls apart, yes. And that is exactly what a student who memorized the answer key does, and exactly what a student who actually learned the method never does. The break is the tell. Now let me tell you the oldest version of this, because it should keep all of us honest. The man who owned Clever Hans von Osten was no con artist. He taught that horse for years in his own yard. He charged nobody a cent, certain he was raising a genius. He is the one who invited the scientists in because he wanted the truth more than anyone.
Wait, so the owner wasn't in on it. He actually believed the horse could count?
That is the hinge of the whole thing. He believed it to his last day. When Funks laid the cues out in front of him, he refused to accept it and walked away angry. The person hardest to convince the horse couldn't count was the person who loved the horse.
That is the deepest cut in the whole skeptic case. The believer and the machine both look most convincing to the exact person who wants them to be real. Keep that discomfort. It doesn't go away.
So here's the crack in their case, and it is a real one. The smartest people in the room are the easiest to fool because they are the ones running the machine and quietly hoping it works. But if it is only a parrot, then how is it solving problems that were never anywhere in its training? Before we keep going, one small favor that actually moves the needle. If this is landing for you, tap like, then subscribe and turn on the bell so you do not miss the rest. 2 taps, completely free, and it pushes this in front of more people who need it.
It isn't only a parrot. That is the honest, uncomfortable answer, and it is where the other side of this gets genuinely strong. Because a pure memorizer simply cannot do the thing these systems now do every single day.
Then give me the strongest version. Not the marketing one, the real one.
My Jude is this. Handed a problem that is nowhere in its training data, a weird little puzzle nobody ever wrote up, and it often just solves it. And a skill it picked up in one place shows up somewhere it was never taught. That second thing, transfer, is not what a lookup table does.
And someone built a test specifically to beat the memorizing objection. This is Francois Cholet. In 2019, he made a benchmark called ARC-AGI. Little visual puzzles, every one novel, designed so you cannot win by having seen it before. You have to work out a brand new rule from 2 or 3 examples, then apply it cold. For years, machines were hopeless at it while humans found it easy. Then it flipped. Hold one number for me because it is the strongest card this side holds, and we owe you an honest look at it before we close. On the hardest version of that test, a frontier system just hit 84.6%. We come back to exactly what that does and does not prove.
That deserves someone with real depth here, not 4 of us guessing at a desk. So we called in someone who knows exactly how these evaluations break. Professor Antonov, are you with us?
Glad to. So here's the short version. Both camps are half right, and I can tell you exactly where the seam runs. I cannot tell you whether any specific model understands anything. Nobody responsible can, because we have no instrument that measures understanding. What I can measure is behavior, and behavior I trust.
So when it solves a fresh puzzle, what does that actually tell you?
That it generalized, which is real, but it all hangs on one thing. Was the test truly new, or had the answer quietly leaked in? Get that wrong, and the score is theatre. I'll leave the rest to you two and get back to breaking leaderboards. Good luck landing the verdict.
The seam is right there, and it is the whole next stop. That one word, leaked, is what quietly broke the scoreboard the entire industry had been pointing at.
%. One analysis of one of the most cited tests in the field found roughly that much of it already sitting in the training data. The exam questions were in the study guide.
This is the thing that quietly wrecked the whole leaderboard. It's called contamination. A benchmark is only honest if the model has never seen the answers. But these models train on a huge slice of the internet, and the internet has the benchmarks in it.
Think of it like a student who got the answer key before the final. The exam is the benchmark. The answer key is the leaked questions. A 95 means nothing now because we honestly can't tell if they solved it or just
Memorized it. A 95 on a test you've already seen is worth exactly nothing.
exactly nothing. The one catch the analogy misses makes it even worse. Unlike a normal cheating student, nobody handed the model the key on purpose. It read the whole library and can't tell you which pages were the exam. A plain version is this: a high score no longer separates real skill from memory.
And the tests that aren't leaked are saturated. Everyone clusters in the high 80s to low 90s, where the gaps are basically noise. One researcher put it perfectly. A judge you haven't checked against reality, they said, is just a vibe with an interface.
So let me put a real question to you at home, because your instinct here matters. When a model aces a test it's never seen, is that because A, it truly reasoned it out? Or B, it had quietly seen that test before, or one just like it? Erica, gut call.
Gut says A, it reasoned it out.
Wrong, and it's the honest kind of wrong. Most of us pick A, and the data keeps landing on B. The move that cuts through all of it is the 10-second test I promised at the top. You don't need a lab. Take a problem it just solved. Change one number. Swap a name. Add one sentence that sounds related and isn't. Then ask again.
And when it holds, that's real signal. When it collapses on a change that wouldn't slow a 10-year-old, you just watch pattern matching, not understanding. Sit with that one.
So the scoreboard everyone was pointing at can't settle this fight, which means the next place people run to isn't a lab at all. It's a room. A very old thought experiment.
"1980, a philosopher named John Searle builds the argument people have been fighting about ever since, and it needs no computer at all. Picture a locked room.
This is the one that gets everyone. And that's Searle himself. Walk them into the room, Erica.
You're inside it, and you speak no Chinese. Notes in Chinese slide under the door. You have a giant rulebook in English that says, when you see these symbols, write back those symbols. You match, you copy, you slide your answer back out.
Outside, a Chinese speaker is reading fluent, perfect replies.
Flawless. They'd swear they're talking to someone who understands. And you, inside, don't know if you're discussing dumplings or the weather. You followed rules. You never understood a word, so the room matches symbols to rules, and it outputs perfect Chinese. What it never does is know what one word actually means. That is the argument in one card.
Rules in, fluent language out. Zero understanding inside. Searle's line is that syntax, just pushing symbols around, never adds up to semantics. It never adds up to actually meaning them. And remember the number that already showed us this from the other direction. 65% gone from swapping a single value. The room speaks. It doesn't know.
Here's my dinner table, but why? You don't understand. Fine. Does the whole room?
You, plus the rules, plus the filing cabinets, does the system understand? That is the strongest comeback there is, and it's honestly unsettled. Searle says the system still just shuffles symbols. Critics say understanding might live in the whole machine, not the guy inside. 40 plus years, no knockout.
The part that isn't philosophy at all is this: twist the input to that room, and the fluent output keeps coming. Confident and wrong. The machine fails exactly the way the room predicts. Assume it breaks, and you're the one who's ready when it does.
So notice what just happened to us. We can't look inside and check. Same wall as the horse. Same wall as the benchmark.
Which is why every honest path we have walked runs into the same wall. You cannot measure understanding directly. Not in a horse, not in a room, not in a model on a server. 300 years of philosophy and still no meter for it. So we have to stop asking the unanswerable question and pick a better one. Elena, you pulled the failure cases all week. In one sentence, the strongest reason to say the machine does not understand.
It breaks. Give it a solved problem. Change one small thing, and it falls 65%. Understanding doesn't shatter when you swap a name. Assume it breaks, and you're right more often than the people selling it.
I'll take the other chair, but not the one you think. I'm not going to claim it understands. I'm going to say the word itself is broken.
Make the case, because that's the reframe the whole episode has been circling.
Every stop today, we hit the same wall. We could not measure understanding in the horse, in the room, in the model, not once. So here's the ruling. If a question can never be answered by any test, it's the wrong question. Swap it for one you can answer. What can it reliably do?
Careful though. Reliably is carrying your whole argument. On the twist test, it isn't reliable, it's brittle. So by your own standard,
It partly fails, yes, which is exactly my point. Now we have a real answer instead of a shouting match. It reliably does some things and reliably breaks on others, and we can name which. That is a verdict you can actually act on.
Then let's do what nobody in these fights does. Say what would change your mind. Elena first. What would make you stop calling it a parrot?
show me it stays solid when you twist a solved problem. Stop the 65% collapse. Do that on tests nobody could have leaked. And I fold.
I'd walk back the capability case the day a clean, uncontaminated novel test shows the gains were leakage all along. Both of those are testable. Neither one says the word understand.
Now the whole game. Remember the 84.6% Erica told you to carry on the test built so you can't cram for it? That is the strongest honest evidence something real is happening. It does not prove understanding. It proves capability on one hard test. And that is exactly the thing we should keep watching and keep twisting.
To borrow Elena's line, run the twist test. That's the whole toolkit.
So here's the verdict, scoreboard and all. The skeptics win the ruling that understanding is unmeasurable, and they win the brittleness. The capability side wins that the gains are real, growing, and not just memory. Nobody wins the word. So the bottom line, my recommendation to you, drop the word. Ask what it can reliably do, then twist it and check. That is the answer to the comment from the top, and it's the only one that survives contact with the evidence. The whole hour, in one line. We spent a century learning that a smart-looking answer and a real mind are two different things, and the fix is a question you can actually test.
Right question, testable answer. And you walk out of here holding both.
So here's what today buys you. Next time a demo dazzles you, change one number and ask it again. 10 seconds tells you more than any leaderboard, and it costs you nothing.
Next time it gets stranger. The people who build these things can't fully explain how they work. Wait until you see what happens when scientists try to open the box and read what's actually inside.
And I'm collecting on Caroline's coffee, for the record. If this reframed even one AI headline for you, hit like and subscribe because we're building this whole series one honest question at a time. So tell us in the comments. When you run the 10-second test on your favorite AI, does it hold up or does it fall apart? Ask the better question, run the test yourself, and we'll see you at the next one. Focus is a renewable resource. Spend it on what moves the needle.
That was tight, Kai. 9 out of 10 and a slightly threatened host. This is Professor Erica. Thanks for watching and signing off.